Welcome back to another episode of Tech Talk Tuesday on a Thursday. Today we continue on with the steering column, the zombie verter, and our dingleberry wire harness. In the last episode, we added a fuse block so that now we have permanent power going through a fuse block. We continue with a similar idea today by adding a second fuse block, except this one will get its feed from the ignition on position. Okay, but something I want to mention to you guys is that we don't have to add in blocks of two. We can actually do something which I would call addition through subtraction. So we could take one fuse block of 4 and we could take its bus bar and we could divide the bus bar in two. We could just simply take some snips and snip it in two. And we can split this block into the top two and bottom two. Feed the top two bus bars permanent power and the bottom two ignition power. And instead of having 4 and 4, we would have 2 and 2. So just an idea that you don't have to add 4 at a time. We could go 1 and 3. We can go 3 and 1. I mean, same thing. You get the idea. So these are really neat and flexible. So as we get started here, I'm going to use my laser pointer here to give you this real but imaginary line. So this line here will divide our permanent side from our ignition on side. As we add blocks on this side, we're just kind of going to go that way. So if we can go 4, 8, 12, and then with ignition side, we'll go 4, 8, 12. So these will be joined, but just pretend that they're two separate systems, or acknowledge that they're two separate systems. And now we can simply slide them on one onto the other, simply as I fumble. There it is. Did you guys hear that click? Okay, I hope I'm getting this on camera. Brought you guys closer. Look how nice that looks. Okay, so now what we need to do is we're going to take our ignition wire, which on the Volkswagen is black. I think I've said that 100 times before. And we're actually going to cut this off because we're trying to eliminate this inline fuse, and we're going to run this actually to another bus bar, and because there's going to be more than one thing that needs ignition power. Okay, so it's the black wire, so I'm just going to snip it, and as I say, all over but the crying. Then I'm going to use my wire strippers, and here I got a little stripped some wire, but I don't like this. Okay, so I'm going to strip a bit more. And this one I am going to fold on itself just a tad. And I'm going to go ahead and pop this in. We've learned that we kind of want to use the end ones. And I'm a bit bummed that these don't do the double crimp. Like the individuals will give us a double. Unless they do and I'm just foolish. Wait, is that what they're doing? Okay, I might be just foolish. Let me do this right. I think they do it. You just have to really push it in there. Maybe that's what we're supposed to be doing. Well, let's try it. Of course, the crimpers are always somewhere else. Okay, let's try this again. And let's see if we can do it right. So we would probably want to do this one here for some reason. As I say that, that's just harder to do. Do we care? I'm going to do the easy one. And I'm going to figure out why I was supposed to do the other one later. Not sure why I insist on crimping on camera, but oh well. Not even get in there. Trying to use the ones that are. How are you supposed to do that? Oh, there it is. And then I think I've learned my lesson. I need to follow it up with a smaller, maybe. That looks pretty good. It's on camera. That looks pretty good. So now, scooch it in there and click it. Okay, so now that is bringing it in to this one, to our ignition on fuse block, and we will add our first one on here, which will be going to pin number 15. So I have a wire that I took from one of my other harnesses. There's extra wires, or there will be. So that's going to go on pin 15 on that end, and on this end, it just gets an individual fuse holder. So let me think here. I may want to give this one kind of extra support. Okay. This one I am going to bend back on itself a tad. What's with all these extra follicles? Yeah, it is hard to do it, trying to do it on camera. And I'll crimp this guy. And then I'm going to shrink that for a little bit extra strength. That's going to be hidden behind the fuse block, but it's kind of going to give me extra. So you gotta just, no, you guys can see this. You just have to keep that flame moving as I sit there and not move it. Okay. Cool that baby off. And yeah, that's going to go. So the first one in here on permanent power is VCU permanent power. First one in here on ignition on is going to be VCU ignition on. So we're going to pop it in there. Listen for that click. Oh, come on. No click. I probably need to push it in with a screwdriver. Okay. Is that in there? It's in there. All right, so let me go get a fuse. So I have a 3 amp fuse. We're gonna pop that in there. It's the smallest I could find, just like so. And now all we have to do, take the other end and plug it into a regular pin 15 like we have been doing all along. And now we are going permanent power here, ignition power here, and we can add more ignition stuff. So I mentioned earlier that for permanent power, you get stuff like cigarette lighter, brake lights. I think on ignition power, we get reverse lights, so they would go under here eventually. But I'm thinking the plan is first go through and build up the fuse block with EV on our mind. So before we do the brakes, before we do the reverse, I think the next thing that could go on the ignition block would be safety box power. If those of you who followed my BMW 530e safety box control, we use the Zombie to control the safety box, and that's what we're going to run in the Rabbit. So that will probably go on position 2 here. We turn the key to the on position. The Zombie will get its ignition on power essentially coming on, and then the S box, safety box, will come on as well. Okay, that's all we got for today except for testing. So let me get the laptop out. So before we run our tests, I just want to point out that I completely eliminated the alligator clip thingies. We could have continued using them, but it's so much cleaner and nicer if we can just screw them onto the terminals. So I just got rid of these to make it a little bit less clutter. Our black ground is wound up in here, goes to pin 55. And then we have our Trinity, 2 of which are going now through the fuse block. Just a top tip on these things. Alligator clips have these little teeth, obviously. And so they really don't make that good of a contact. Sure, it's kind of fine for really thin wire and low amps, and it's good for what it's kind of designed to do, but I think we're pushing a little bit here, and I want to have really good solid contacts. Later we'll get into taillights and brake lights, and I don't think alligator clips would suffice for that. So I'm ditching them. Okay, so we're going to turn on our power supply. It's preset for voltage of approximately 13 volts, simulating a car battery. Ground goes to pin 55. Permanent power through the permanent fuse block to pin 56. Then we have ignition on power through the ignition fuse block going to pin 15. And then the last thing here of the Holy Trinity is still an inline fuse on pin 52. That is our momentary start. So now we have permanent power. This wakes up the Zombie, which should have been on the whole time, and it should be broadcasting its network. So I usually like to just check the network first, and there it is, top of the list. It's connected because it's asking me to disconnect, so that's good. I'm going to launch my browser. I'm using Edge, but again, you guys can use whatever you like. So I don't want to log into anything on the interwebs. I want to jump to spot values because that's where we're going to be getting feedback. We're not doing settings, we're trying to get some feedback. So now again we are going to enable auto refresh. So you click the auto refresh checkbox, and then you have to put in refresh mode. So you click on refresh, and under spot values a little donut starts spinning, which is great. And now we're going to watch the second line here below version, which says operation mode. So I turn the key to the on position. That doesn't change. Then we click it once, momentary click, and it went into run, exactly what we wanted to see. Again, we're taking baby steps. So now we started through the permanent power block, and then with ignition key on, we went through the ignition block, and then when we went to the start, we just ran through the direct wire. We still have one more inline fuse here. And then now we're going to turn off the ignition, and op mode goes to off all automatically because we're in auto refresh. We're going to uncheck the box for auto refresh, and it looks like unchecking it stops it because the donut went away. So guys, thank you for watching this video. In the next one, I have a decision to make. Do I add a fuse block for momentary power for the start circuit? I can't think of anything else except for one item that would be on here. So do I take the bus bar and do I snip one off of it, and the other three will then be part of the ignition on, because I think that one can get pretty busy, and only the top one would be our start? What do you guys think? Or do I just leave it on inline? I've seen plenty of implementation where it's a hybrid. There are inline fuses, like here simulating our fusible link, and then these consolidated fuse blocks. Sometimes I want to just do it all one way or the other. Maybe we'll add that third block, snip it here, and this will be our third one, and the Holy Trinity will have continuity here. Well, not in the electrical sense, but every first one on here will be going somewhere to the Zombie-tron. Let me know in the comments if you get a chance to comment before I make the next video. These videos are coming out fairly quickly, and no, I'm not months ahead of what I'm putting out there as far as editing and putting out. So just a little bit here and there. Thanks for watching, guys.